So I'm just going to open up this speech with a quick story. So I'm not typically a sociable person, nor can I dance. However, I found myself attending this family gathering, and I sat myself on the sidelines. And as the night accrued, there came a point at the night where people started to dance to this thing called Limbo. And as I was watching people dance, my cousin was actually under the pole for the dance and said he was stuck in limbo. My nephew comes up to him and says, "Are you sure you're not stuck in a physical or a mental sense?" And then that made me ponder, what do we mean by limbo? So in this speech, I'm going to be discussing the main meanings, both in negative and positive connotations, the etymology and synonyms for the concept, and finally, the final description. So the first definition for limbo. According to online.com, this term was first coined in c. 1300 when it was used to describe a region or a place where souls would abide that were of pre-Christian saints or unbaptized babies that were stuck in between heaven and hell. It was a spot where people or their souls weren't either good enough to end up in heaven or bad enough to end up in hell. And this is going back into Roman Catholic theology. The second definition for limbo comes from Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and according to this term, as previously mentioned in the introduction, it is a dance that requires the dancer to bend backwards underneath a pole, and as the dance progresses, the pole will sink lower and lower, and likewise the dancer would have to bend their back lower and lower. And the final, or rather an alternative definition for limbo comes from Cambridge Dictionary, which refers to being in a state of uncertainty, say like a decision. Maybe I could be torn between investing all of my time into learning how to play chess and being the best at it, or learning how to solve a Rubik's Cube and be the best at that. As for the etymology for the term limbo, the term grew exponentially from 1800 and reached a peak in 2019. A synonym for limbo is oblivion, which refers to the state of forgetfulness, or the loss of memory. Additionally, a similar spelling to limbo, limbus, is a Latin word that refers to edge or border. And these definitions all come from online. For the final description, some essential, or rather the essential feature to keep in mind about limbo is that all of these definitions have a sense of feeling stuck, with the souls being trapped between two different planes. You have the souls being in the sense of being stuck. Being in a state of uncertainty of decision making can also be referred to being as stuck. And even in dancing, you could feel stuck trying to get underneath the pole and getting over to the other side. Additionally, there is a unfavorable sense to the first and the last definitions to limbo, with the spiritual sense as well as the mental sense, and more of a positive type of feeling with dancing, as dancing can be festive. Finally, it can be unfavorable to be in a state of limbo spiritually and or mentally again. So in conclusion, looking back to that time where my cousin was stuck in limbo, I can confidently say that he probably would have been stuck in limbo in both senses, in a mental sense and a positive, or rather a physical sense, because if he's not sure enough to get underneath the pole, he's quite literally stuck in a physical sense. Thank you so much.